My name is Eleanor Whitman, and at 83 years old, I never thought I'd be telling this story. But here I am, sitting in my modest apartment on Maple Street, holding a lottery ticket worth $500 million, the numbers I've played religiously for 30 years, my late husband's birthday, my daughter's birthday, and the day she walked out of my life finally came through. The irony isn't lost on me. The very numbers that represent my greatest joy and deepest pain have made me one of the richest women in the state. I stare at the ticket with trembling hands, my arthritis making it difficult to grip. Part of me wonders if this is some cruel joke the universe is playing on me, after all these years of struggling, of eating canned soup for dinner and darning my own socks. Fortune finally smiles upon me when I'm too old to truly enjoy it. But perhaps that's not entirely true. Perhaps this money will finally give me the one thing I've wanted for 29 long years, my daughter back. 3 days after the lottery officials confirmed my win, my old rotary phone rings. I almost don't answer it. Reporters have been calling nonstop since the news broke. But something makes me pick up the receiver. Mom, the voice hits me like a lightning bolt. I haven't heard it in nearly 3 decades, but I would recognize it anywhere. My daughter's voice, older now, but unmistakably hers. Sarah, I whisper, my heart hammering against my ribs. Yes, Mom, it's me. Silence stretches between us like a chasm. 29 years of hurt, anger, and longing compressed into this moment. I want to scream at her, to demand explanations. I want to hang up. I want to weep with joy. Instead, I simply ask, how did you get my number? I saw the news about your lottery win. I found your address in the phone book. Mom, I know this is sudden, but I'd like to see you. My grip tightens on the phone. After all these years of silence, she calls now, when the whole world knows I'm rich. The timing feels like a knife twisting in my chest. Would you? I manage to say, my voice barely steady. How convenient. Sarah arrives at my apartment the next afternoon. I've spent hours preparing corners that haven't seen attention in months, baking cookies from a mix I found in the back of my cupboard. Part of me feels pathetic, trying to impress the daughter who abandoned me. But I can't help myself. When I open the door, I barely recognize her. The wild-haired, defiant 25-year-old who stormed out of my life has been replaced by a polished woman in her 50s. Her brown hair is professionally styled, her clothes expensive. She looks successful, well-fed, happy. She looks like she never needed me at all. Hello, Mom, she says. And for a moment, I see uncertainty flicker in her eyes. Same uncertainty I remember from when she was a little girl, afraid of thunderstorms. Sarah, I step aside to let her in, noting how she takes in my small apartment, the second-hand furniture, the carefully mended curtains. Is she cataloging my poverty, feeling guilty, or simply curious about how I've been living? We sit across from each other at my tiny kitchen table, the plate of cookies between us like a peace offering she hasn't accepted. You look well, she says finally. Do I? I laugh, but there's no humor in it. I look like an 83-year-old woman who's been living on Social Security for the past 15 years, because that's exactly what I am. Her face flushes. Mom, why now? Sarah, why? After 29 years of silence, do you call me 3 days after my lottery win makes the evening news? Sarah's composure cracks, and for a moment, I see the daughter I lost all those years ago, because I've been a coward, she admits, tears filling her eyes. Because I've picked up the phone to call you 1,000 times and hung up before dialing. Because I've driven past this building more times than you'll ever know, but I could never work up the courage to knock on your door. This revelation stuns me. You've been ... You've driven by here. For years, Mom. I live in Chicago now. You know that I'm only 2 hours away, and I've been 2 hours away for the last decade. I work in marketing for a pharmaceutical company. I'm divorced. I have a 15-year-old son named Michael, a grandson. I have a grandson I've never met. The knowledge hits me like a physical blow. I wanted to tell you about him, she continues, her voice breaking. I wanted to bring him to meet his grandmother, but every time I thought about facing you, about explaining why I left the way I did, I couldn't do it. I was ashamed, Mom. I was ashamed of how I hurt you, and I was too proud to admit I was wrong. I study her face, looking for deception, for the calculated manipulation I've been expecting. Instead, I see genuine pain, genuine regret, but I also see something else: desperation. And now, I ask, quietly, what's changed now, besides my bank account? Her face hardens slightly. That's not fair, isn't it? 29 years, Sarah. 29 years of birthdays, Christmases, lonely nights when I had no one. And now, 3 days after the world learns I'm worth $500 million, you suddenly find your courage. You think I'm here for your money. Sarah's voice rises, and I see flashes of the fiery young woman who used to live in my house. You think that little of me? I don't know what to think of you. I fire back, my own temper rising. I don't know you at all anymore. The Sarah I knew would never have abandoned her mother the way you did. The Sarah I knew wouldn't have disappeared without a trace and then shown up 29 years later like nothing happened. Nothing happened. She stands up abruptly, knocking over her chair. Nothing happened. Mom, I was drowning. I was 25 years old, working 2 jobs to support us both after Dad died, and you were so lost in your grief that you couldn't see I was falling apart too. Her words hit me like a slap. That's not, it is true. Every day, I watched you disappear a little more. You stopped eating, stopped bathing, stopped talking to me except to complain about money or ask me to fix something else that was broken in this apartment. I felt like I was carrying the weight of both our lives, and I was suffocating under it. I want to argue, but the memories come flooding back. The months after my husband Robert died, when grief consumed me so completely that I barely functioned. Sarah, working double shifts at the diner and the grocery store, coming home to find me still in my nightgown at 3 in the afternoon. So you left, I say quietly. You left me when I needed you most. I left because I was 25 and scared and I didn't know how to save us both. I thought if I left, it would force you to take care of yourself again. I thought I was doing the right thing. Sarah sits back down, her anger deflating into exhaustion. Do you remember what you said to me the night I left? I rack my memory, but those months after Robert's death are still hazy, blurred by grief and the medication the doctor had prescribed. You told me I was just like my father, weak and selfish. You said I was abandoning you, just like he did by dying. Her voice is barely a whisper. You said you wished I had died instead of him. The words hit me like a physical blow. I don't remember saying them, but I can feel their truth in the way Sarah's shoulders slump, in the old pain that flickers across her face. Sarah, I know you were grieving. I know you didn't mean it, but I was grieving too. Mom, I had lost my father, and I was losing my mother to depression, and I was just a kid trying to hold everything together. When you said that, it broke something in me. I reach across the table for her hand, but she pulls back. I left that night because I couldn't stay in a house where my own mother wished I was dead. I was wrong to disappear completely. I know that now. I should have called, should have tried to work things out. But I was young and hurt and proud, and the longer I stayed away, the harder it became to come back. We sit in silence for several minutes. The weight of our shared pain fills the small kitchen, heavy and suffocating. I think about all the years we've lost, all the words we should have said, all the forgiveness we should have offered each other. I'm sorry, I finally whispered. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I was drowning in grief, but that's no excuse for what I said to you. You were grieving too, and I should have seen that. I should have been your mother. Tell me about my grandson, I say, desperate to move past the painful revelations, to find something good in this wreckage of our relationship. Sarah's face transforms when she talks about her son. The pain recedes, replaced by the warm glow of maternal love I remember from my own days of raising her. He's brilliant, she says, pulling out her phone to show me pictures. He wants to be an engineer. He builds these incredible things with Lego's whole cities, spaceships, robots that actually move. He's curious about everything, just like you used to be. I study the photos of a lanky teenager with Sarah's dark hair and intelligent eyes. In one picture, he's grinning proudly next to an elaborate Lego construction. In another, he's reading a thick book, completely absorbed. What does he know about me? I ask. Sarah's smile fades slightly. He knows he has a grandmother. He's asked about you over the years, especially when he was younger. I told him we had a falling out, that it was complicated. Does he know about the lottery? Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first, to see if he trails off, uncertainty creeping back into her voice, to see if you wanted to meet him, to see if we could try to be a family again. The hope in her voice is devastating. Part of me wants to say yes immediately, to grab onto this chance for redemption, for the family I've been missing for 3 decades. But another part of me, the part that's been hurt and abandoned and left to struggle alone, isn't ready to trust her motives. I want to meet him, I say carefully, but I need to understand something first. You said you've been in Chicago for 10 years. You said you've driven past this building. If you really wanted to reconnect, if you really regretted leaving, why didn't you come back before? Why now? Sarah's face goes pale, and I know I've hit on something important. Tell me the truth, Sarah, all of it. She takes a shaky breath. Michael is sick. The words hit me like a truck. What? He was diagnosed with leukemia 6 months ago. The treatment, the medical bills. She breaks down completely, sobbing into her hands. I have insurance, but it doesn't cover everything. The experimental treatment his doctors recommend costs $300,000. And my insurance won't approve it because they consider it investigational now. I understand. The timing, the desperation I sensed beneath her regret. The way she looked around my apartment, she wasn't cataloging my poverty out of guilt or curiosity. She was calculating how much help I could provide. So you are here for the money, I say, and my voice sounds strange and flat to my own ears. No, she looks up, tears streaming down her face. I mean, yes, I need help, but that's not the only reason. Mom, I've been wanting to contact you for years. When Michael was born, when my marriage fell apart, when he took his first steps, said his first words, I wanted to call you every time, but I was too ashamed, too proud. She wipes her eyes with the tissue from her purse. When he got sick, when the doctors started talking about treatment options and costs, I realized how much time I'd wasted. I realized I might lose my son, and you might lose the chance to know your grandson, all because I was too cowardly to pick up the phone. But you saw the lottery story first, I pressed. Before you called me, you knew I had money. Yes, she admits, I saw it, and for the first time in months, I had hope. Hope that I could save my son and maybe, just maybe, find my way back to my mother at the same time. I sit quietly for a long time, processing everything Sarah has told me. My grandson is sick, my daughter needs help, and I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, but the timing still stings. Would she have called if Michael weren't sick? Would she have found her courage if I hadn't won the lottery? I need time to think, I tell her finally. Mom, I know how this looks. You don't know how anything looks from where I'm sitting. I interrupt. You left me, Sarah. You disappeared for 29 years, and now you're back because you need something. I want to help Michael, of course, I want to help him. He's my grandson. But I need to understand what kind of relationship you actually want with me. I want my mother back, she says simply. I want Michael to know his grandmother. I want to stop living with this guilt and regret. Yes, I need financial help, but even if you decide not to help us, I still want to try to rebuild our relationship. Easy words to say when you know I have $500 million. She flinches as if I've slapped her. That's cruel, Mom. Cruel. You want to know what's cruel? Spending Christmas alone for 29 years, having no one to call when I was in the hospital with pneumonia 3 years ago, lying awake at night wondering if my only child was alive or dead, happy or miserable, and having no way to find out. My voice is rising, and 29 years of suppressed anger and hurt are pouring out of me like water from a broken dam. Cruel is watching other women with their daughters and grandbabies, and knowing I'll never have that because the one person who should love me most in the world walked away and never looked back. So don't talk to me about cruel, Sarah. I wrote the book on it. Sarah leaves that afternoon with a promise to call me in a few days. I spend the next 48 hours in turmoil, alternating between rage and hope, suspicion and longing. On the third day, I make a decision. I call Sarah. I want to meet Michael, I tell her. But I have conditions. Okay, she says cautiously. First, I want to meet him before he knows about the lottery money. I want to see how he reacts to me as his grandmother, not as a rich woman who might be able to help him. That's fair. Second, I want you to bring me his medical records. I want to talk to his doctors myself. If I'm going to help, I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with, of course. And third, I pause, knowing this will be the hardest condition for her to accept. I want you to prove to me that you want a relationship with me that has nothing to do with money. How? I want you to spend time with me, real time. I want you to bring Michael here for dinner once a week for the next month. I want us to get to know each other again, and I want you to do it without knowing whether or not I'm going to help with his medical expenses. The silence on the other end of the line stretches so long, I wonder if she's hung up. Sarah, I'm here. Yes. Okay, we can do that. But I hear the reluctance in her voice, the calculation. How much time can she afford to invest in me if I might not come through with the money her son needs? One more thing, I add. I'll be having my lawyer draw up papers to put the lottery money in a trust. If you're really here for the right reasons, you won't mind waiting to find out how much of it might go to Michael's treatment. This time, the silence is even longer. Sarah brings Michael to dinner the following Sunday. I spend all day cooking pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, apple pie. The same meal I used to make for Sunday dinners when Sarah was young. When they arrive, I'm struck by how pale and thin Michael is. The chemotherapy has taken his hair, and there are dark circles under his eyes that make him look older than his 15 years. But when he smiles, his whole face lights up, and I see Sarah at that age. "Hi, Grandma Eleanor," he says, and hearing those words for the first time nearly brings me to tears. "Hello, Michael. I'm so glad to finally meet you." We sit down to dinner, and I watch the interplay between mother and son. Sarah fusses over his food, encouraging him to eat more. Michael tolerates her attention with the good-natured patience of a teenager who understands his mother's worry. "Mom tells me you like to build things," I say to Michael. His face brightens. "I love engineering. I'm working on this robot right now that can navigate obstacles autonomously. It uses sensors to map the environment," and he stopped suddenly, looking embarrassed. "Sorry, I get carried away talking about it." "Don't apologize. Your grandfather was an engineer. He would have loved to hear about your robot." For the next hour, Michael tells me about his projects, his favorite classes, his plans for college. He's articulate, passionate, brilliant. He talks about wanting to design medical devices someday, to help people like the doctors who are helping him. Sarah watches our interaction with something that looks like wonder. Maybe she's surprised by how easily Michael and I connect. Maybe she's surprised that I'm genuinely interested in my grandson as a person, not just as someone I might help financially. The following week, Sarah takes me to meet Michael's oncologist, Dr. Patricia Chen. She's a small, serious woman who doesn't sugarcoat the situation. Michael's leukemia is aggressive, but he's responded well to the standard treatment protocol, she explains, showing me charts and test results I barely understand. However, we're at a critical juncture. The experimental treatment I've recommended has shown remarkable results in clinical trials, 85% success rate compared to 40% with conventional treatment alone. But it's expensive, I say. Unfortunately, yes. And because it's still considered experimental, most insurance companies won't cover it. The total cost, including the medication, additional monitoring, and potential complications, could reach $400,000. Sarah sits quietly beside me, her hands clenched in her lap. I can see the weight of this decision, this impossible choice between her son's life and financial ruin. "What happens if he doesn't get this treatment?" I ask. Dr. Chen's expression grows even more grave. "We continue with conventional chemotherapy and hope for the best. But his particular type of leukemia has a high recurrence rate. Even if we achieve remission, there's a 70% chance it will return within 5 years." After we leave the doctor's office, Sarah and I sit in my car in the parking lot, both of us overwhelmed by what we've learned. "I've been researching second mortgages," Sarah says quietly, "trying to figure out if I can borrow against my house. But even if I could get approved for the full amount, I don't know how I'd make the payments." I watch her profile as she stares out the windshield. She looks exhausted, defeated. For the first time since she came back into my life, I see her as she really is, not as the successful woman in expensive clothes, but as a terrified mother facing an impossible situation. "Sarah," I say gently, "why didn't you ask me for help sooner? Even before the lottery. I mean, I would have found a way." She turns to look at me, tears in her eyes. "Would you? After what I did to you, after 29 years, the question hangs between us, and I realize I don't know the answer. Would I have helped her if she'd come to me, poor, desperate, with no lottery win to make me feel generous? Would I have been able to get past my hurt and anger to help my grandson?" I want to say yes, but I'm not sure I can make that claim honestly. That evening, Sarah comes over for dinner alone. Michael is having a sleepover at a friend's house, one of the few normal teenage activities he can still manage between treatments. We eat quietly, neither of us sure how to bridge the gap between casual conversation and the deeper issues we need to address. Finally, I can't stand it anymore. Tell me about your marriage, I say. Tell me about Michael's father. Sarah sets down her fork and sighs. His name is David. We met in college, got married too young, divorced 5 years later. He's a good man, just ... We weren't right for each other. Does he help with Michael's medical expenses? He tries. He sends what he can, but he remarried and has 2 other kids. His new wife doesn't like that he's still involved with us. She pauses. He visits Michael when he can, but he lives in California now. It's complicated. I nod, recognizing the pain of complicated family relationships. What about you? She asks. Have you been lonely all these years? The question catches me off guard. What do you mean? I mean, did you ever consider remarrying? Dating? You were only 54 when I left. You could have had a whole other life. I think about the few men who showed interest over the years, the widower from church, the neighbor who brought me soup when I was sick. I turned them all away, too wrapped up in my grief for Robert and my anger at Sarah to open my heart to anyone else. I couldn't, I say simply. After your father died and you left, I think I just ... shut down. I convinced myself I was better off alone. But you weren't, were you? Better off alone? The honesty in her question deserves an honest answer. No, I was miserable. But misery was easier than risking being hurt again. We sit with that truth for a while, both of us understanding its implications. 3 weeks into our dinner routine, everything falls apart. I'm in the grocery store when I overhear 2 women talking in the next aisle. Did you see that story about the lottery winner, Eleanor Whitman, the old lady who won $500 million? What about her? Well, my sister works at the hospital, and she says Whitman's daughter showed up out of nowhere with some sob story about her sick kid. Hasn't spoken to her mother in decades, but now that there's money involved ... You're kidding. I'm not. My sister says the daughter's been bringing the kid around, playing the whole family reunion card. Pretty convenient timing, if you ask me. I abandon my cart and drive home, fury building with every mile. By the time I reach my apartment, I'm shaking with rage. I call Sarah immediately. We need to talk now. She arrives 20 minutes later, clearly sensing my mood. Mom, what's wrong? People are talking, I tell her, and I repeat what I overheard at the store. Sarah's face goes white. Mom, is that what this is? Some elaborate when Michael playing the role of the loving family, waiting for me to open my checkbook. How can you say that? You've seen us together. You've seen how Michael feels about you. I've seen 2 people who need $400,000 doing whatever it takes to get it. The accusation hangs in the air like poison. Sarah stares at me for a long moment, then starts to laugh a bitter, broken sound. You know what? You're right. I am here because I need money. My son is dying, and I need money to save him. I'm sorry, that makes me a terrible person in your eyes. Sarah, no, let me finish. Yes, I saw the lottery story before I called you. Yes, I need your help, but do you want to know something else? I've loved every minute of these past few weeks, watching you with Michael, seeing him light up when he talks about his projects with you, having someone to share the burden of his illness with. It's been the best thing that's happened to me in years. She wipes her eyes angrily. But you're so determined to see the worst in me that you can't believe any of it's real. You want to know why I stayed away for 29 years? This is why. Because you've never been able to believe that anyone could love you without an ulterior motive. Sarah's words hit me like a physical blow. I sink into a chair, the weight of her accusation settling over me. That's not true, I whisper, isn't it? Even with Dadu, we're always convinced he was going to leave you, that you weren't good enough for him. You sabotaged every friendship you had because you were sure people were just being nice to you out of pity. And when I left, instead of fighting for me, instead of trying to bring me back, you convinced yourself I was just another person who didn't really love you. I want to argue, but the memories come flooding back. My constant need for reassurance. From Robert, my inability to accept that he chose me and kept choosing me every day for 35 years. The way I pushed away well-meaning neighbors and church friends after he died. Sure, they were only helping out of obligation. I was depressed, I say weakly. You were depressed before Dad died, Sarah says gently, sitting down across from me. You were depressed when I was growing up. You've been depressed for as long as I can remember, Mom, and I understand that now, as an adult. But when I was 25 and trying to save us both, I didn't understand it. I just knew that nothing I did was ever enough to make you happy. The truth in her words is devastating. I think about all the ways I doubted her love as a child. All the times I interpreted her teenage rebellion as rejection rather than normal development. I failed you, I say. We failed each other, she corrects. But that doesn't mean we can't do better now. She reaches across the table and takes my hand. Mom, I love you. Michael loves you. Yes, we need your help, but we also need you. We want you in our lives, rich or poor, healthy or sick, difficult or easy. That's what family means. For the first time in weeks, I allow myself to believe her. That night, I call my lawyer. Robert, I say, I want to make some changes to my estate planning. Of course, Eleanor. What did you have in mind? I want to set up a trust for my grandson's medical expenses. I want to make sure he gets the treatment he needs, regardless of what happens to me. How much are we talking about? I take a deep breath. Whatever it costs. $1 million, if necessary. I want him to have the best possible care. And your daughter. I think about this question for a long time. I want to provide for her too, but I want to do it right. Can you set up something that will help her but not make her dependent? Maybe help with Michael's ongoing care, his college expenses. Certainly. What about the bulk of your winnings? Another pause. I'm still thinking about that, but Robert, I want you to call Dr. Chen tomorrow. I want Michael's treatment to start as soon as possible. The next morning, I call Sarah. Pack a bag. I tell her, you and Michael are moving in with me. What? Temporarily. During his treatment, I want to be part of this. I want to help take care of him. I can hear her crying on the other end of the line. Mom, you don't have to. I want to. I've missed 29 years of being your mother, and 15 years of being his grandmother. I don't want to miss another day. Moving Sarah and Michael into my small apartment is chaos. We rearrange furniture, set up a bed in my living room for Michael, turned my sewing room into a makeshift bedroom for Sarah. It's cramped and awkward, but it's also something I never thought I'd have. Again, a house full of family. Michael starts his treatment the following week. The experimental therapy is grueling long days at the hospital, terrible side effects that leave him weak and nauseous, but he faces it all with remarkable courage. And Sarah and I take turns sitting with him, holding his hand, reading to him when he's too tired to talk. Grandma, he says one afternoon during a particularly difficult session, tell me about when Mom was little. So I do. I tell him about Sarah's first day of school, when she cried because she was afraid I wouldn't be there when she got home. I tell him about the time she tried to make breakfast in bed for Father's Day and nearly burned down the kitchen. I tell him about her high school graduation, how proud Robert and I were, how bright her future seemed. Sarah listens to these stories with tears in her eyes, remembering a time when our love was uncomplicated, when we were simply mother and daughter, without all the baggage of loss and abandonment. You were a good mother, she tells me that evening as we clean up after dinner. I tried to be. I made a lot of mistakes. We all did. 6 weeks into Michael's treatment, Dr. Chen calls us into her office with news. Michael's latest scans show dramatic improvement. The leukemia is in complete remission. It's remarkable, she says, studying the results. The experimental treatment has exceeded our best-case scenario. The cancer is undetectable. Sarah collapses into sobs of relief. Michael, still weak from treatment but grinning broadly, hugs us both. I sit in stunned silence, hardly able to believe that my grandson, this boy I've only just gotten to know, is going to be okay. What's next? I ask. Continued monitoring, of course, and Michael will need to complete the full course of treatment, but based on these results, I'm very optimistic about his long-term prognosis. That night, we celebrate with Chinese takeout and ice cream. Michael, his appetite finally returning, eats more than I've seen him eat since we started living together. Sarah keeps touching his face, his hands, as if she can't quite believe he's going to be all right. Thank you, she tells me as we're cleaning up. For everything. For the money, yes, but more than that. For being here. For being his grandmother. For giving me my mother back. Thank you for coming home, I reply. 3 months later, Michael is back in school, his hair growing back in soft curls. He's gained weight, his color has returned, and he's back to building elaborate Lego creations that take over half of my living room. Sarah has found a new job in town, a lateral move that pays the same as her Chicago position but allows her to stay close to me and Michael's medical team. She's also started seeing a therapist to work through the guilt and depression that have plagued her for years. I'm learning to forgive myself, she tells me, for leaving, for staying away so long. for not being the daughter you needed. And I'm learning to trust, I tell her, to believe that people can love me without wanting something in return. We're sitting on my small balcony, watching Michael in the courtyard below as he shows his new robot to a group of neighborhood's kids. He's become something of a celebrity among the local children, the boy who beat cancer and builds amazing machines. Mom, Sarah says, I've been thinking about the money, the lottery money. My stomach tightens slightly. We've been so focused on Michael's recovery that we haven't talked much about the future, about what my newfound wealth means for all of us. What about it? I want you to enjoy it, travel, if you want to, buy a bigger place, do things you've always wanted to do. You've spent so much on Michael's treatment and helping us get back on our feet. I don't want you to feel like you have to take care of us forever. The irony isn't lost on me. For months, I suspected Sarah was only interested in my money. Now she's encouraging me to spend it on myself. What if taking care of you is what I want to do? She smiles. Then, I guess we're all very lucky. 1 year after that first phone call, I'm standing in the kitchen of my new house, nothing too grand, just a comfortable 3-bedroom place with a big backyard for Michael and his friends. Sarah and Michael have their own apartment now, but they're here for Sunday dinner, a tradition we've re-established that the dining room table is set for 4. Michael has invited his girlfriend, Emma, a brilliant girl who shares his passion for engineering and makes him laugh until his sides hurt. Sarah is tossing the salad while Michael and Emma set up some contraption he's built that automatically serves dinner rolls. Grandma Eleanor, Emma says, Michael told me you helped design the hydraulic system for this. That's so cool, I laugh, remembering the afternoon Michael and I spent figuring out how to make his dinner roll dispenser work properly. Your grandson is very patient with his mechanically challenged grandmother. She's not mechanically challenged, Michael protests. She just thinks differently about engineering problems. Sometimes that leads to better solutions. As we sit down to eat, I look around the table at these 3 people who have become my world. Sarah, now 54, looks healthier and happier than she has in years. The therapy has helped, but more than that, I think the relief of having her son healthy and her relationship with me restored has lifted a weight she'd been carrying for decades. Michael, now 16, and officially cancer-free, is taller than his mother and showing signs of becoming the kind, brilliant man I always hoped he'd be. He still has regular checkups, but Dr. Chen is optimistic that he's beaten this thing completely. And Emma, this sweet girl who looks at my grandson like he hung the moon, reminds me of myself at that age, full of dreams and determination, ready to change the world. I have an announcement, Sarah says, as we're finishing dessert. We all look at her expectantly. I've been accepted to graduate school. There's a program for working adults that will let me get my master's degree in counseling. I want to help other families dealing with serious illness. Sarah, that's wonderful. I reach over to squeeze her hand. It means I'll be busy though, between work and school, and Michael, will manage, I tell her. That's what families do. Later, after Michael and Emma have gone to a movie, and Sarah has left to meet some friends, real friends, something she's finally allowed herself to have again, I sit alone in my living room with a cup of tea. The house is quiet, but it's not the desperate, aching quiet of my old apartment. It's the peaceful quiet of a home that's been filled with laughter and conversation, that will be filled with it again tomorrow. I think about the numbers I played all those years. Robert's birthday, Sarah's birthday, the day she left me. I played them faithfully, week after week, thinking of them as my lucky numbers. But I understand now that luck had nothing to do with it. Those numbers represented love, my love for my husband, my love for my daughter, and yes, even my love for the day she left, because that day was part of our story too. It was the day that led to all the days that followed, including this one. My phone rings, interrupting my thoughts. It's Sarah. Mom, I just wanted to say thank you again, for everything. For the money, yes, but mostly for giving us another chance. Thank you for taking it, I tell her. Thank you for coming home. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. I always have. After I hang up, I sit for a while longer, watching the evening light fade from the windows. Tomorrow, Michael will come by after school to work on his latest project, a device that helps people with arthritis open jars, more eyes. He says he's designing it for me, but I suspect it's really for all the elderly people he hopes to help someday. Tomorrow, Sarah will call to tell me about her classes, her clients, her hopes for the future. Tomorrow, I'll wake up in a house that's part of a life I never thought I'd have again. I was wrong about the lottery. The real jackpot wasn't the $500 million. It was getting my family back. It was learning that love doesn't always look the way we expect it to, and that forgiveness of others and ourselves is the greatest wealth of all. At 84 years old, I'm finally rich in all the ways that matter, and my lucky numbers, I still play them every week. Not because I need to win again, but because they remind me that sometimes the things that seem like endings are really just beginnings in disguise. The numbers that broke my heart ultimately healed it. Sometimes that's how miracles work. Today is Michael's college graduation. He's receiving his degree in biomedical engineering from MIT, and his senior project, a device that makes cancer treatment more comfortable for pediatric patients, has already attracted interest from major medical companies. Sarah, now Dr. Sarah Whitman, she took back her maiden name after her divorce was finalized, runs a support group for families dealing with childhood cancer. She still lives in the apartment across town, but she's here for dinner at least 3 times a week, and we talk every day. Emma, now Michael's fiancée, graduated with a degree in robotics. They're both heading to graduate school in the fall, and they've asked me to be part of their wedding planning committee. As for me, I've discovered that having money is nice, but having family is everything. I've established a foundation that helps families with children facing serious illnesses, not just with medical expenses, but with the kind of practical support that helps keep families together during crisis. I volunteer at the hospital where Michael was treated, spending time with children going through what he went through. I read to them, play games with them, and sometimes, when their parents are struggling with despair, I tell them my story. I tell them about a daughter who came home, a grandson who beat the odds, and an 83-year-old woman who learned it's never too late for second chances. I tell them about the lottery that changed everything, and how sometimes the biggest wins have nothing to do with money. Most of all, I tell them about love, how it can break your heart and heal it, how it can disappear for years and come back stronger than ever, how it can transform a house into a home and strangers into family. At 89 years old, I am the luckiest woman alive, and I still play those same numbers every week. The end.